Let's get
Psycho. Logical.
Hey, how's it going? I thought this would be a good time for us to talk about the upcoming registration. So maybe it caught you a little off guard that we had to transition a little bit, but that's okay, and we're going to make the best of it. However, um, one of the things I would hope that we could talk about is the degree plans that we have in psychology and kind of what the differences are between the BA and the BS, and maybe some guidance on. There are a lot of choices, but depending on what you want to do, some choices might be better than others. And so I want to give you just a super quick overview of the degree plan, a few problems that some people run into, and then some guidance on how to choose the courses that will best suit your goals. Okay, so first I have this is pulled from the university catalog, and it is our two degree plans. We have the Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology, and we have the Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that if you compare these two side by side, when it comes to the major itself, there are almost no differences. In fact, I don't think there are any differences. These are exactly the same on the right side here, if you compare them side by side. So that means what the difference is really over here on the gen ed courses that we ask of you in these two different programs. Now, let me talk for a second about what's a BA and what's a BS and what difference does it make. Well, in psychology, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. But in many institutions that have psychology degrees, they either have one or the other. In fact, it's kind of rare that we would have both. Well, for one reason or another, we wound up with both here, and we set out to differentiate them. And so I wanted to give you a little inside track into what were the faculty thinking when they put together a BA and a BS program. In some ways, we modeled our ideas on our sister discipline, biology. And in biology, the BA and the BS are more common to have at the same institution, and they're better differentiated uh, between what the two degrees are. And so, usually, if you want to be sort of a well-rounded biologist who has a broad background, but also has some in biology, but also has some training in areas like writing and communication. So imagine you wanted to be the PR expert for a zoo, or if you want to be a science writer or something like that, then you're likely to go for the BA in biology. On the other hand, if you want to go to graduate school and become a researcher and become a scientist, then you're pretty much going to stick to the BS. And so that's sort of the idea. We thought when we pictured a BA, we thought, well, people who are going to have a lot of more language and communication skills might go for the BA for various reasons. We also asked for the BA. We required a philosophy course. And so the idea is that this is more like a broad liberal arts background where you get a little bit of philosophy, some language and literature, and things like that. Um, and that supports your psychology degree. On the other hand, so if we look at the BA degree, you'll notice most of this doesn't change much, but we have component area option, which is introduction to philosophy, and we also have a language requirement that is here. See, 2 semesters of foreign language or 6 hours. Um, okay, now if we go to the Bachelor's of Science. You don't have those requirements, but instead you have science lab courses. So instead of language arts and the philosophy course, those same hours get taken up by biology or chemistry labs, usually biology labs. So, which one's better? Well, really, I wouldn't argue that one is better or over another. I'd say it's really up to determining what your goals are and um, letting that be your guide. Um, so let's see. Let me talk a little bit about the a couple of problems that people run into on these two. By the way, you can find these. I uploaded these to Blackboard, but you can also find them in the catalog. And they're a nice little checklist that you can use to say, did I get everything I needed to graduate? I wouldn't just trust my advisor blindly to lead me down the right path. This is something that you should be double checking yourself and making sure you've got all of the necessary boxes checked. It's one of the things where educating yourself can be a real benefit. Okay, so one of the things we require is we have now a writing for psychology course. And if you take as long as you're taking the writing for psychology course, you don't need composition 2 or technical writing. You don't have to take technical writing if anymore. That used to be the case, that we required technical writing, but it's not anymore. And so if somebody tells you have to take tech writing, even though you've had Comp 1 and 2, that's wrong. So you may want to double check on that. Let's see. Anything else? So that tends to be a problem. Another thing is let's see. I think that's the main issue that people have been running into lately. One of the questions that comes up is about the capstone. Now, most of you have a little ways to go before you get here to the capstone options. And we have two options. One is called History and Systems, and the other is called Research Stats 3. Now, you might be wondering why you would take one or the other. Stats 3 is a really good, it's a slightly more advanced level of stats than Stats 2. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's much harder than Stats 2. It's just building upon what you did in Stats 2. And that's really good if you're going to go into a graduate program, because you're going to have to take a graduate statistics course. And you will have a leg up over most of the people there, and it'll be much easier if you've had Stats 3. Now, that said, we like to recommend it to people who are going to graduate school, but it's not the only path to success. And History and Systems is a course that's designed to sort of integrate much of what you've seen over your other courses in psychology, and start to look at how they're all connected together and how they influence one another. So by that point, it's usually in your last semester that you take it. You've taken all of these different courses, and now you can take this course, which is an overview, which sort of big picture looks at the history of psychology. How did these different disciplines emerge? What common elements do they have? And what are some just general ways of thinking or systems that we've come up with in psychology? And two things. One, it's really a really nice way to kind of tie everything together. And two, it's also a really good way to get a review for things like if you take the psychology GRE or any kind of entrance or exit exams that you might be taking, it's a really good review for those kinds of things. And so that can be a really good option as well. So we have two really good options. Start mulling it over now. You probably have some time before you have to decide. talk to the professors if you can, find professors who teach them and ask them about their course. Talk to other students and get a sense of it. But those are both really good options. Then we have 5 of the 6 following areas. So we have broken the psychology into sort of into these kind of larger disciplines: learning and cognition, development, biological basis of behavior, social personality, and applied psychology, and then experiential learning. And I highly encourage you to kind of look at the different courses. The descriptions of each of these are in the catalog. But as you start looking for options, one thing I want to guide you toward is I uploaded on Blackboard a document which the faculty got together and put together. And I don't even know if the advisors have a copy of this, but you have a copy of it now. And this is where it came from. We circulated this table, and we agreed as a faculty on, if you're going into clinical, some of the things you probably want to take. It would be highly unusual for you to go into a clinical master's program, let's say, without having taken abnormal psychology. Now, technically, on our degree plan, let's go back to the degree plan, wherever it went. Look, you could take physio, and you wouldn't have to take abnormal. Right? Well, that might not be the best move if you're going into a clinical setting. Right? That doesn't mean, because it's still physiological, it's still good to have under the clinical setting. So you might take both as one of your electives. But this was just meant as some guidance. It's not a law that you have to take any particular ones of these. But if I was looking at, say, when I'm looking at your transcript, I'm going to get a good sense based on the courses you took of what your interests are. So if you took IO Psych, Social Psych, Motivation, Assessment, Personality, I'm going to know, that's going to give me a really good feel for the kinds of things that you're into. I'm going to know you're going to be a really good fit for IO, as opposed to, let's say, in the comparative group, you really want to take things like comparative, animal behavior, learning, physiological psychology, and things like health and social and cross-cultural psychology. Those fit in, but they're kind of lower on the priority list. Okay? And notice in this case, I don't think abnormal's on the list at all for the comparative column. Anyway, you get the idea. So you can use this to kind of help kind of weight your preferences as you're going about choosing which courses. That way it's not just, well, I randomly signed up for this course because it fit in with my schedule. There can be a method to your madness. So I wanted to point that out to you. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is internships and directed research. We've talked a little bit about directed research and how that works. Basically, you pick up, you have to connect with a faculty member who's doing research and connect with them. But we haven't talked much about the internship. Now, the internship course is one that has some restrictions on it. And so you want to be a little bit careful about how you approach that one if you're interested in it. Now, the cool thing about the internship course is you're going to be doing an internship with an organization in town, and rather than go to class, you go to that organization and you work for them for some number of hours a week, and you get course credit for it. So, sometimes you have unpaid internships around. Well, these are unpaid in the sense they're not going to give you dollars for them, but you're getting your course credit. And so we're basically saying, look, we're going to set aside time for you to go do internships, and we're going to give you course credit for it. And that way you're registered for it as part of your load, and you that time that you would be in class, instead, you're going to be doing your internship. Now, the other cool thing about it is that often these things lead to jobs. Usually lead to pretty good recommendation letters at the least, but they very often lead to jobs as well. So it's a really good opportunity. I encourage you to explore it, but make sure as you start to get close to when you might want to take an internship course that you get familiar with the application process. Right now, the person teaching it is Dr. Kalmbach, and she can give you more information. But basically, you have to fill out an application. I believe you have to get some letters of recommendation from some faculty members. And keep in mind that internships are really important, not just for you, but also to us, because we need to make sure that we're maintaining a good face for the institution. And we don't want one person to go out and ruin the relationship with with an organization such that we can't work with them anymore and no one else has the benefit of interning there. So we're really selective and careful about who we put in those positions and how far along they are in the program, and making sure that that you understand what the goals are and responsibilities are. But it's a really good opportunity, so look into it. Okay, that's all I have for you guys on this for now. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I hope that you will kind of look through this and then try to make a schedule for yourself and then take it to your advisor and see what they say. I don't know how advising is handling the virtual meetings now, but I guess we'll see. But communication is key. Make sure that you check in with your advisor and talk to them about how we're going to move forward. Okay, that's all for now, and good luck. I'll see you next time.